Earth had become exhausted, losing its vitality, and humanity was nearing collapse. Then a certain absolute being appeared, revealing what Earth required to survive. This being advised humanity to dispatch selected individuals to other worlds. These travelers, called dispatchers, became known as heroes. From those foreign worlds, dispatchers could bring back resources, treasures, and knowledge essential for humanity's survival. Our main character, Chan-Su, works a trash gardening job, basically the lowest kind of maintenance labor. But deep inside, he wishes he could become a dispatcher too. After finishing his shift for the day, he goes to the dispatcher reunion center, where crowds of people gather to get information about their missing family members. He squeezes through the huge group and reaches the receptionist. The receptionist checks the log, then tells Chan-Su he doesn't have enough money to pay for the investigation he wants. He tells him to return only when he has the required amount. Chan-Su pleads for even a little bit of news, but before he can get anything, he's shoved aside by the next customer in line. With nothing else he can do, he walks home with determination in his eyes. When he was a child, his father was a top-ranked veteran known as a Together. But when Earth's situation worsened, he was dispatched again, and never returned. After waiting endlessly, Chan-Su's mother eventually left to search for her husband as well. But she, too, never came back. In the end, Chan-Su grew up completely alone. He has grown so much since then that even the precious memories of his parents have begun to fade. He can't even clearly picture their faces anymore. Suddenly, a bright golden light explodes outside his apartment, unleashing a shockwave so strong it flings him straight into the wall. He gets knocked out instantly. Hours later, he finally wakes up and sees an emergency alert on his phone, warning everyone about the turbulence and flash caused by the re-entry of a returning dispatcher. To make things even worse, an S-rank returnee suddenly announces his retirement, shocking the entire world. He explains that he failed to protect the dispatchers who went with him. He even failed to protect his god. In the end, he returned alone as a failure. Because of this, he says he has lost the ability and qualification to ever dispatch again. The earthquake and golden flash were caused by his re-entry. With a broken voice, he announces his retirement and urges everyone to do their best to protect Earth. This is devastating for humanity. The world population has fallen below 500 million, making it extremely difficult to raise new high-ranking dispatchers. Chan-Su is stunned that such a powerful S-rank warrior not only failed, but also retired. But before he can process anything, he hears a knock on the door. He walks over, opens it, and no one is there. Just as he begins doubting his sanity, a tiny voice tells him to look downward. Chan-Su looks down and is shocked, speechless. A small, cute, talking rabbit is standing there, holding a tablet. Chan-Su is so startled that he falls straight on his backside. But the rabbit calmly checks his tablet and continues speaking, asking, "Are you Chan-Su?" He tells Chan-Su not to panic because he has come with great news. The rabbit smiles warmly and congratulates Chan-Su on officially becoming a dispatcher. Chan-Su is completely stunned after hearing the rabbit's words, forcing him to ask again just to confirm whether the rabbit truly understands what he's saying. The rabbit admits that Chan-Su is probably confused, but assures him that it doesn't change the fact that he has already been chosen. Since Chan-Su is acting somewhat suspicious and overwhelmed, the rabbit suggests they move to a different location. As they walk through an unfamiliar hallway, the rabbit asks Chan-Su if he has any special abilities, mentioning that most people usually have at least one. Chan-Su replies that he is ranked the highest in the Trash League, which is exactly why he isn't qualified to be a dispatcher. Still, he mentions that he is good at trimming trees and flowers. The rabbit is shocked to his core when he hears this, and Chan-Su is equally surprised that the rabbit approached him without even realizing he was basically worthless. The rabbit then calms himself and says there is always a reason behind everything. He reassures Chan-Su that even if he is useless, it doesn't change the fact that he was chosen. Chan-Su is blown away because he never imagined he would step inside the dispatch center, meaning a real opportunity has finally arrived for him. They arrive at a massive door, and the rabbit suggests they enter to continue the discussion. But before the rabbit can even finish talking, Chan-Su is already trying to open the giant door. Obviously, the giant door doesn't move at all. The rabbit asks in disgust what he thinks he's doing. He points to the right, revealing the actual entrance, a tiny door perfectly sized for the rabbit, not a human. The rabbit says he has never had a problem using it, and Chan-Su has to remind him that he is literally a rabbit. Believing the rabbit is insane, Chansu says he's leaving. But the rabbit asks if he's sure he wants to throw away this chance. He reminds Chansu that he has failed every test he has taken, but now a rare opportunity is right in front of him. The rabbit asks if he truly thinks something like this will ever happen again in his lifetime. He tells Chansu he isn't trying to force him. He is free to leave if he truly wants to. After hearing all this, Chansu has no choice but to crawl through the tiny door. He follows the rabbit through a small passageway until they reach a bright, tidy office, surprising Chansu since he expected a cramped room. The rabbit tells him that there is a world perfectly suited for him. Chansu is confused, wondering if each person has a world that fits them. The rabbit explains that there is a world called block-type land grabbing, and currently, an event is in progress. Chansu's eyes widen in shock when he sees the information, and the rabbit assumes he already knows about it. But Chansu says this is his first time hearing anything about it. The rabbit explains that the world is one of the most popular choices lately because it has a unique feature, receiving divine protection from a god. Chansu becomes more interested the moment he hears this, especially since the S-rank returnee previously mentioned a god. The rabbit notices Chansu's reaction and assures him that choosing him has no connection with the recent incident. Chansu then asks what kind of god he would receive. The rabbit says gods are normally assigned randomly, but since Chansu is his favorite person, he'll allow him to choose the god himself. The rabbit presents 3 cards and asks if he is ready to pick. Chansu is confused since he can't tell which card is good or bad. The rabbit reminds him that this chance will not come again, and Chansu agrees. Thinking about his father, Chansu becomes irritated that he's even hesitating. He picks a card and suddenly, the visual form of a god appears in front of him. This scares the life out of him. When he reads the card, he realizes he has chosen the god of negation with a 44% rate. The rabbit tells him not to be such a coward because everything he saw was just visual effect. Chansu, with his heart almost jumping out of his chest, asks what kind of god needs such terrifying effects. He also says he doesn't think this god suits him, since the name alone sounds like trouble. He stands up nervously and asks if he can draw again. The rabbit says he can, shocking Chansu. He quickly draws again, and once more he gets the god of negation. Chansu is furious and starts suspecting the whole thing is a scam because there's no way he keeps getting the same god. The rabbit tells him nothing is wrong with the cards. Then his expression changes, and he informs Chansu that he has only one final chance. He urges Chansu to choose wisely. Frustrated, Chansu just hopes to pick anything that isn't the god of negation. He draws again this time. A bright green light appears. Chansu's face lights up with hope. He has pulled the goddess of abundance, though the card's probability is less than 1%. He's about to lose interest again until the visual form of the goddess appears, and she is unbelievably gorgeous. Even the rabbit can see the fantasies forming in Chansu's mind. The rabbit smiles and asks if Chansu wants another chance, shocking him since the rabbit said moments ago that it was his final try. Chansu then asks what happens if he chooses this card. The rabbit explains that he will have to depart immediately. Chansu is stunned, and the rabbit asks why he's hesitating. He tells Chansu that he has a rare opportunity not just to be a dispatcher, but to one day possibly return as a hero. The rabbit fills his mind with sweet fantasies of the world celebrating him. He tells Chansu that becoming a dispatcher will give him a life far better than his current miserable existence. Chansu realizes the rabbit is right. His life is basically worthless. He makes his decision. The system informs him he has been chosen to serve the goddess of abundance. The goddess's image appears exactly like he imagined. Chansu smiles, believing he can accomplish anything with such a goddess backing him. He asks the rabbit where he needs to go. The rabbit opens a portal saying the time has come. Then, without warning, he pushes Chansu toward it. Terrified, Chansu asks if the portal is really safe. The rabbit jokes that it's beautiful, though to Chansu it looks like an obvious death trap. Still, he refuses to back down. He plans to become successful and prove his haters wrong. While he's lost in fantasies about future success, the rabbit shoves him straight into the portal. Just then, a voice scolds the rabbit for intervening directly despite knowing it's forbidden. The rabbit replies that they had no choice because Chansu is the only one who can help. While being absorbed into the portal, Chansu sees a loading screen. A tip appears, saying the percentage symbolizes the size of the god's faction. Chansu is horrified. He thought it meant probability, but this is far worse. He finally lands in his new world. He looks around and sees nothing but a barren wasteland. On top of that, his goddess has 0 faction size, meaning he is completely doomed. Tears stream down his face as he realizes his fate and concludes that he is truly finished. Chansu had expected a land overflowing with abundance, yet everything before his eyes was nothing but a barren wasteland. A system window suddenly appears again, welcoming Chansu to the world of digging. It tells him that he is the apostle of the goddess, and that his duty is to secure as many land rights as he can through digging. Before doing anything, he decides to look around first. He figures he needs to locate the goddess, and while wandering, he suddenly comes across an old, shabby, worn-down sickle. He wonders if someone once used it and tossed it aside. Since he used to be a gardener, the sickle fits perfectly in his hands. Suddenly, he senses an overwhelming presence behind him, and terror shoots through him as he assumes a monster is about to devour him alive. Fear crawls up his spine when he realizes he hasn't even met the goddess yet, and now something might kill him. Dying is the last thing he wants right now. In panic, he decides to scare off the creature by swinging the sickle. He spins around and swings with full force, only to discover there is no monster at all. Just a tiny, adorable hamster staring up at him. Chansu crouches down to get a better look, and he can clearly see the hamster holds no hostility whatsoever. Then the thought suddenly strikes him, maybe he'd get bonus points for killing the hamster. The hamster screams its lungs out in terror. Chansu smirks, proud of successfully teasing the little creature. He decides to let it live as long as it doesn't cause trouble. Suddenly, the hamster turns and begins walking away. It stops a short distance away and gestures for Chansu to follow. Chansu chases after it, surprised at how fast it moves for its size. He keeps wondering where they're heading until they reach a stream. Chansu immediately fills his bottle with water and drinks, feeling refreshed. He asks the hamster if it knows where the goddess resides. The hamster tries to respond, but their ways of communicating clearly don't match. The hamster continues moving, so Chansu follows, curious about where it's taking him now. After a while, they arrive at a massive dried-up tree, looking just like the lifeless trees on Earth. As Chansu steps forward, he accidentally steps on a withered ginseng, shocking him. He wonders why a ginseng would be in such a shabby location, but the hamster snatches it from him immediately. Chansu is confused, thinking the ginseng must belong to the hamster. But suddenly, a system notification appears. Chansu has discovered the goddess. Chansu thinks the system must be glitching. He hasn't seen any goddess nearby at all. He keeps complaining about it when the hamster grabs onto his leg. He thinks the hamster is just messing around and picks it up, telling it he's busy and not in the mood to play. But the hamster's expression tells him there's something important he's missing. Then comes the shocking revelation: this shriveled ginseng is actually the goddess. Chansu refuses to believe it. The goddess he saw earlier was lush, beautiful, and full. There's no way she'd shrink into an ugly little ginseng root. Not ready to accept reality, Chansu watches as the hamster pulls out a magnifying glass. When Chansu looks through it, he finally accepts the truth. He grabs his head in pain as he realizes the land-grabbing system and the percentage he saw earlier were all hints at this terrible situation. He remembers the numbers rising while he drew the cards, meaning the god's influence was increasing. Now it hits him. The god of negation was actually a good draw, which explains why it appeared repeatedly. He wonders if the goddess shriveled up completely, because her influence dropped to 0. Chansu stares at the tiny goddess, wondering why she isn't waking up. A horrifying thought crosses his mind. Did he kill her by stepping on her? The hamster looks at him like he's unbelievably stupid. Then it hits him maybe the goddess will revive if he gives her water. He pours water on the ginseng, and surprisingly, a bright green glow emerges from her body. This tells him the water is working, so he pours more and more. He practically floods her. The goddess almost drowns in the water and wishes desperately that Chansu would stop before she dies again. Finally, she wakes up, and Chansu celebrates his overly aggressive CPR-style revival. The hamster is also relieved to have its master alive again. Chansu bows respectfully as the goddess manages to sit up and look at her apostle. Chansu has no idea what he's supposed to do next until another system notification appears, telling him he can become stronger using his skills. Chansu is shocked. He didn't even know he had skills. He sees one ability called Goddess's Blessing. There is no description, but he assumes it must help crops become beautiful. He activates it only to discover the blessing is actually the skill Decapitation. Chansu is horrified, since decapitation literally means cutting someone's head off. He refuses to imagine himself chopping heads just to live an abundant life. But then he reassures himself, there's no way the goddess of abundance would give him such a brutal skill. He turns to the goddess and asks if he's really supposed to behead someone. Her confused reaction only makes him more unsure. He eventually concludes that the skill must indeed involve decapitating something. He starts wondering what that could possibly mean, and suddenly, it hits him that means the hamster is also included. The hamster is joyfully celebrating the goddess's revival, completely unaware that Chansu is staring at him with the most sinister, murderous eyes imaginable. The hamster turns around, only to see Chansu fully armed with the sickle, ready to slice him clean in half. Before the sickle can strike, the hamster bolts away in terror. Chansu gives chase, and when the hamster realizes there is no escape, it runs to hide behind the goddess. Chansu calmly tells the hamster that he isn't happy about what he's about to do, but it is for the goddess's sake. Suddenly, both the hamster and the goddess begin panicking intensely. When Chansu turns around, he spots a terrifying monster standing behind him. He also notices that the hamster has jumped protectively in front of the goddess. At that moment, Chansu realizes the hamster wasn't a monster at all. Chansu admits his mistake and understands that he must make up for it by defeating the real monster before him. But the question remains, can he actually do it? Despite the uncertainty, Chansu decides to be brave. He charges at the creature with the sickle in hand, and thanks to his decapitation skill, he can clearly see the exact spot he needs to strike. He activates the skill, leaps forward, and swings the sickle with full force, cleanly taking down the monster in a single blow. The hamster and the goddess are completely stunned by what they just witnessed. Chansu casually returns to the goddess, acting as if he didn't just commit an insane feat. He bows to the hamster, apologizing for mistaking him for a monster and almost sending him 6 feet under. He asks for forgiveness, and the hamster smiles before giving a thumbs up, showing he holds no grudges. Seeing this, Chansu happily gives the hamster a name, Hamstal. The name makes the hamster blush bright red. At that moment, another system notification appears, informing Chansu that the monster's head will automatically be transported because of the skill's effect. This is when he finally learns the name of the monster he killed, the Immortal Ogre. Since he has defeated one, a kill counter appears, indicating he can slay as many as he likes. Chansu is shocked the creature is called Immortal, considering how easily it died. Another notification appears, explaining that the transported offering now belongs to the goddess. Chansu turns to look at her and realizes she looks even fresher and more vibrant than before. It dawns on him that if he continues working hard and killing monsters, the goddess will gradually return to her original divine form. Motivated, especially because he wants to see the goddess regain her stunning beauty, Chansu rushes off to hunt more monsters. He soon encounters a horde of immortal ogres. Another system tip appears explaining that there are unidentified points usable only by the world system and cannot be traded. Chansu is surprised since he doesn't even remember when he acquired these points. Still, it's good news. He decides exterminating the ogres is his next mission. Chansu is thrilled he has the decapitation skill, which makes killing the ogres incredibly easy. He dashes toward them, activates the skill, and slices them down in a single swing. Another system tip appears, saying he earns points by defeating monsters. To Chansu, this is basically the system giving him permission to massacre as many monsters as he wants. He quickly kills 4 immortal ogres and thinks of taking down 100 more just for fun. After he finishes the first wave, Hamstal cheers on his shoulder as if he fought them. Chansu then wonders why they are called immortal ogres when they die so easily. Since nobody can answer his question yet, he decides he will learn the truth as he keeps defeating more of them. Chansu returns to the tree and finds the goddess looking even more beautiful than before. He grins, realizing the effects are kicking in much faster than expected. He's excited to watch the goddess slowly return to her peak form. The goddess then points at the large tree, leaving Chansu confused about what she wants. It finally clicks. She wants him to lift her into the tree. Chansu helps her up, and then the goddess gestures again. The system tells him that he can use the blessing of abundance, but it will consume points. Chansu touches the tree and activates the skill, pouring all of his points into it. With its help, he restores the tree to full health and abundance. When he finishes, he is shocked to see that the tree is actually an apple tree, massive apples hanging everywhere. He picks one enormous apple. Even though he's never seen an apple before, he's sure they shouldn't be this gigantic. Though tempted to eat it, he decides the first harvest should go to the goddess. She accepts the fruit, then absorbs the entire apple in seconds. Chansu stands there stunned, questioning what he just witnessed. He realizes the goddess is extremely powerful and understands that angering her would be a terrible idea. Chansu climbs the tree and collects a bunch of apples for himself and Hamstal. He now understands he must grow stronger because the goddess he serves is not someone to take lightly. He bites into an apple and is shocked by how unbelievably delicious it is. While Chansu quietly enjoys his apple breakfast, the goddess, on the other hand, is wondering how he managed to defeat multiple monsters in a single day and revive such a massive tree so quickly. A cold shiver runs through her as she questions where such a monstrous human like Chansu even came from. Taking a deeper dive into the backstory of the goddess of abundance, she was originally responsible for food and agriculture, and she was an incredibly powerful force because of the high-quality produce her faction provided. However, when the god of corruption began absorbing other factions, abundance had no choice but to flee, as corruption's power was growing far too overwhelming. To survive, abundance abandoned her agricultural trade and instead turned to hunting monsters. But her followers were completely unfit for combat. Because of this, they couldn't win a single battle. As a last resort, they modified one of their skills into something different. This means the decapitation skill, which Chansu believes is for chopping off monster heads, is actually a skill designed to help Abundance's subordinates bring back the heads of dead animals or monsters, since they were terrible fighters and could only manage simple tasks. Just by looking at Chansu, the goddess trembles in fear. He is nothing like what she expected her apostle to be. She wonders why he chose her, but she eventually convinces herself that Chansu now belongs to her. As Chansu reaches for another apple, the goddess suddenly clings to his leg. He panics, thinking she's trying to absorb him, but she's simply trying to hug him to thank him for everything he has done so far. Later, the goddess falls asleep. Chansu lays her gently on the altar, but a loud thunderclap booms out of nowhere. He fears it will wake her, but surprisingly, she remains sound asleep. Chansu then realizes that apples alone won't sustain him. Right at that moment, the system notifies him that the delivery event is now in progress. Chansu is shocked that such a feature exists. However, to make a delivery, he must be able to contact people back on Earth. But he notices Hamstal is exhausted, so he lays him down beside the goddess. He even covers the two of them with leaves as makeshift blankets. Meanwhile, at the Reincarnation Trading Company, Hasujin, the Apostle of Reincarnation, bursts into her boss's office, yelling at him for giving her more tasks even though she's already overloaded. It turns out they received an order to deliver apples. The order states that no money is involved, meaning they must barter apples in exchange for goods. Hasujin shouts at her boss, asking if she did something wrong and if this is punishment. But her boss says no. This job is actually a blessing in disguise because she won't have to work during the trip, and it can serve as a break for her. He explains that staying in the office means more work, so she should use this mission to clear her head. Hasujin argues, saying the only reason he's sending her is because there is no one else available. Her boss laughs nervously because she is absolutely correct. He urges her to hurry, saying she might stumble upon something lucky on the journey. He waves goodbye, hoping the trip will lead to something positive. Hasujin checks the order logs and notices there are multiple deliveries she has to complete. She hopes it will be worth the effort, or else there will be big trouble. Meanwhile, Chansu has been gathering apples in preparation for the delivery. Hamstal is having a blast eating the apples. Chansu finds him munching away and grabs him, telling him to stop messing around because the apples are for trade. He explains that they will be meeting someone later today, and since the delivery person is coming from far away, Chansu wants to make a strong first impression. During the delivery event sign-up, Chansu learned that the world is literally divided into blocks, and a block territory conquest summon event is currently underway. Even though the world looks like normal land, the edges are surrounded by a wall, and moving to another block requires a movement ticket. Chansu realizes there is nothing nearby, and it would take an entire week to reach the nearest village on foot. He's relieved that the delivery takes only 2 days. Even though it feels too fast, Chansu doesn't care as long as he gets his sleeping bags quickly. He also ordered a cushion for the goddess to sleep on. Chansu's goal is to maximize the goddess's affection so he never ends up on her bad side. He also notices that the immortal ogres have been appearing on their own since yesterday, which is good for him. He finally understands that the term immortal basically refers to their revival mechanic. Still, Chansu doesn't care. He's happy to eliminate as many as possible and farm points. While fighting monsters, he is nearly crushed from behind, but manages to dodge just in time. He then realizes the monsters are getting a little faster. He assumes they grow stronger just like players do. Even then, Chansu feels zero threat from them. While Chansu continues slaying monsters, Ha-Soo-jin watches from the sky. She reacts the same as anyone who has ever witnessed Chansu fight. All she sees is a crazy, overpowered guy who treats monsters like breakfast. Apparently, the immortal ogre used to be the primary hunting target for most dispatchers, because it gave far more points than ordinary monsters. However, no matter how many times it was slain, it would resurrect the following day stronger than before. Even if a dispatcher moved to another block, the ogre would still chase after them relentlessly, making it the most persistent creature of all. On top of that, it usually leaves a curse on its target, weakening them little by little until they eventually collapse. Because of this, it eventually became a monster everyone avoided. Yet this same terrifying creature is what Chansu slices apart like paper. Watching from above, Ha-Soo-jin wonders if Chansu is so reckless that he doesn't even care about the ogre's potential retaliation. She also notices he isn't purifying the defeated beasts. With everything she sees, she assumes Chansu is a swordmaster, but then questions why a swordmaster would waste time picking apples. Ha-Soo-jin concludes Chansu might be a not-so-bright swordmaster, but to avoid provoking him, she decides it's safest to treat him as gently as possible. After defeating the entire horde of immortal ogres, Chansu realizes he has gained a massive amount of points, increasing at an exponential rate. Because of the blessing, a single apple now costs 1,000 points. He figures reaching 100 apples won't be a problem at all. He had wondered why a shrine existed in the area, but now he realizes it's basically a jackpot. Just then, Ha-Soo-jin approaches and humbly bows to him. She introduces herself, explaining that she is from the trading company and she has arrived to deliver his order. Chansu excitedly shakes her hand, impressed that she found his block on the first attempt. Deep down, Ha-Soo-jin is terrified. Chansu is too powerful, and she must not upset him. Suddenly, she spots Hamstall. His cute, squishy appearance melts her heart instantly, and she desperately wants to hug him. Chansu notices her strange expression and asks if she's feeling unwell, but she quickly insists she's fine when in truth she's just eager to cuddle the hamster. Chansu then guides her to the apple tree. The fragrance of the apples alone blows her mind. She blurts out how amazing they smell. Chansu agrees, saying the apples grew extremely well. Ha-Soo-jin cannot believe the gigantic tree before her is actually an apple tree. Chansu plucks one apple and asks if she wants to try it. Ha-Soo-jin takes it, shocked by the massive size. But she isn't expecting anything special after all. When fruits get too big, their flavor usually suffers. She takes a bite and is immediately thrown into a state of unimaginable deliciousness. The sweetness, the juiciness, the acidity, all perfectly balanced. Ha-Soo-jin concludes the apples could easily sell for at least 100,000 gold because the taste surpasses any regional specialty she knows. She asks if Chansu really priced them at 2,000 gold, and Chansu says yes. Ha-Soo-jin nearly explodes. She tells him that the price is absurd. Chansu thinks she means the apples are too expensive and nervously asks what she would pay. Ha-Soo-jin shocks him when she says, "You should charge no less than 20,000 gold per apple." Chansu nearly loses his mind when she adds that department stores would pay even 30,000 gold. Even though she could easily scam him, Ha-Soo-jin refuses. She wants him as a long-term customer, and she isn't ready to die if he discovers any fraud later. She tells him these apples aren't normal, they are a new type with a completely unique flavor. To avoid pushing things too far, she suggests they settle at 20,000 gold for now. She pulls out a formal contract. Chansu reads through it, finds it favorable, and smiles. But he asks to adjust one section. Ha-Soo-jin is startled to see that he increased the company's share percentage. Chansu explains that he did this because he wants a long-term partnership, and because Ha-Soo-jin was honest about the apple's true value. He offers her a handshake, stunning her. She thanks him for accepting the terms and hands over all the items he ordered: seeds, food supplies, cooking tools, and a familiar egg, which is a commemorative gift. Haesujin tells him the egg will help in farming and adds that he might not even need it because he's already raising a familiar. Chansu is confused. He doesn't know what she's referring to. She points at Hamstal, believing the hamster is his familiar. She tells Chansu that the more points he pours into the egg, the stronger the familiar inside will be once it hatches. However, she warns him, if he overdoes it, the egg will crack and fail. He should stop the moment it begins trembling. Chansu says he'll just have to try to get the correct feel for it. Haesujin then asks about the apple harvest schedule. Chansu says one day should be enough. Haesujin is stunned daily apple harvests. After a long, dry conversation, they finalize schedules, quantities, and visit dates. The first part of their deal is complete. Once Haesujin leaves, Chansu approaches the goddess to thank her for hiding during the meeting. He examines all the supplies he received and is amazed at how profitable apple sales are. But he knows he owes everything to the goddess. Then he notices the goddess hugging the eggs, and he realizes he should probably hatch them soon. But he will need more points, meaning he must hunt more monsters. Chansu is proud of his progress so far, but he knows hardship lies ahead. Still, he feels no fear. He was built for challenges. When Haesujin returns to the trading company, she reports everything she witnessed. She tells her boss that Chansu is definitely Korean and likely from a guild. Her boss is shocked that a combat-oriented person can produce such high-quality apples. Haesujin explains that Chansu defeated undead monsters with nothing but a rusty sickle and targeted only their heads. Her boss speculates that Chansu might be trying to become a swordmaster by putting himself in harsh conditions, similar to a man named Rohan. He then decides it's better to keep Chansu hidden rather than assign guards to him, and Haesujin agrees. While talking, the boss keeps munching the sliced apples until Haesujin grabs his hand, reminding him they're supposed to eat them together. Back in the world of abundance, Chansu starts pouring points into the egg, wondering whether he'll get a cute familiar or a powerful one. Suddenly, the egg cracks open with a bright flash. Chansu becomes convinced that an SS rank familiar is about to emerge.
Chansu's smile disappears the moment he sees a tiny chick pop out of the egg. He cannot believe that all the hype, excitement, and his 120,000 points resulted in nothing more than a chicken. He had been hoping for a worker-type familiar, and now he has no idea what to do with the chick. His first thought is to raise it and eventually eat it, but he hesitates because he cannot bring himself to cook something he spent so many points on. Trying not to get attached, he names the chick Ari. Just as he is getting used to Ari, the second egg begins hatching. Chansu gets excited again, thinking this one might finally be a useful worker, but his face drops when a pig emerges. He immediately names the pig Doji. Chansu is devastated. Instead of proper familiars, he is receiving ingredients. He feels he has been completely scammed. Ari and Doji approach the goddess to greet her. The goddess apologizes for not being able to protect them until the end, and they apologize in return for not fulfilling their duties as her retainers in their previous lives. The goddess accepts their honesty but warns them of one serious danger, her apostle Chansu. She explains that he does not know they are her followers, and if they become useless, he might sell them or even eat them. They can already sense Chansu's intimidating aura from afar, making the warning feel very real. The goddess advises them to behave perfectly until Chansu unlocks the communication skill so they can speak properly. Ari and Doji agree and decide to observe quietly for now. The next morning, Chansu goes out to hunt undead monsters. Ari and Doji wake up to loud noises and rush outside, only to see Chansu running around and cutting down undead monsters with terrifying strength. It finally becomes clear to them that Chansu is extremely dangerous, just as the goddess had warned. Ari whispers to Doji that Chansu kept looking at them strangely, and Doji panics because he remembers it too. After Chansu finishes fighting, Ari and Doji quickly run to him with towels tied around their heads. They praise his hard work and offer him a towel to clean up. Now that they have seen his true strength, they fully understand the goddess's warning. Chansu thanks them and after cleaning up offers them an apple. Doji sprints forward immediately while Ari pretends not to be a glutton. Chansu enjoys feeding them, especially since he once heard that grape-fed pork tastes better. Ari tries to stop Doji from overeating because he does not want Doji to become Chansu's preferred flavor, but even Ari is tempted because of how many points Chansu spent on the apple. Still, he manages to control himself. Chansu then offers Ari grains and Ari instantly eats them, thinking it is the safer choice if he wants to avoid becoming fried chicken one day. After that, Chansu begins farming. Doji digs up the soil, Ari plants the black bean seeds, and Chansu covers them, waters them, and gives them the blessing of abundance. Immediately, a lush field of healthy crops grows. Chansu picks up one of the seeds and Ari's eyes lock onto it. Ari rushes toward Chansu, but Chansu hides the seed and reminds him that the first harvest always goes to the goddess. He offers it to the goddess, and she absorbs it in her usual strange manner. Chansu then tells Ari and Doji it is time to eat before planting the potatoes. This time, Ari eats as much as Doji and both end up looking stuffed like balloons. Ari panics, thinking he is doomed because he could not control his hunger. Meanwhile, Chansu is delighted because they are eating well, which motivates him to grow more food they enjoy. He then starts wondering if the apples are selling well at the market. At the trading store, Haisujin's boss notices that the apples are the only items left unsold. A crowd has gathered, but no one wants to buy them because the price is 200,000 gold per apple. Even though he decorated and packaged them nicely, people still think the apples are too expensive. He scratches his head in frustration, wishing someone would at least take one bite. If they did, they would understand their value. But getting the first person to try is the biggest challenge. Suddenly, someone buys them. The manager rushes to the employee and asks what happened. The employee explains that not only did someone taste the apples, but he bought every single one of them. The signature on the payment slip is Rohan. That is when the manager realizes who it is. Rohan, the pioneer of the handicap training method. Rohan, the undefeated swordsmaster. At that moment, the manager understands they have struck pure gold. The situation explodes in the news, and soon everyone begins claiming that Rohan became a swordsmaster because of the apples he ate. Haisujin's boss, Ryubu, starts receiving calls from every direction. Everyone wants 1 box, 10 boxes, even 100 boxes of the miracle apple. A week after Chansu arrived in the world of abundance, he admits he's been living a fantastic life. He now has potatoes and is ready to cook them. While he's frying the tasty potatoes, Doji clings to his leg, begging for a bite. Chansu tells him the potato wasn't made for him since he already finished his meal, but he still gives Doji some anyway. Moments later, Haisujin appears. She's shocked to see that all of Chansu's familiars have already hatched. To her, they look like adorable plush toys she desperately wants to hug. Meanwhile, Hamstel and the other 2 familiars are desperately covering the goddess to keep her hidden from Haisujin's intense gaze. Chansu then asks Haisujin why she came. She tells him she has good news. She shows him the sales receipts, revealing that all the apples sold out, every single one, and all at the listed price. Chansu grabs his head in disbelief. Everything sold out in just 2 days. Haisujin explains that the most unbelievable part is that now everyone wants a taste of the apples. Chansu never imagined apples could be worth so much. He remembers apples usually sold for less than 1,000 gold. Since he gets 30% of the profits, he realizes he'll be earning 60,000 gold per apple. With quick math, he realizes that if he sold 100 apples in one day, he would make 3 million. His mind nearly explodes when he calculates the yearly profits over 1 billion. Chansu feels relieved that he's finally on the right path. With this income, he might someday find a clue about his missing parents. Chansu tells Haisujin he isn't trying to ruin the mood, but he asks her how long she thinks the Emperor apple hype will last. He knows apples are hot right now, but they can't keep selling at such extreme prices forever. Haisujin tells him she understands, but assures him that 100 apples per day with a target market of 1 million customers means they could keep selling for 27 years. Chansu is stunned, thinking that number is an exaggeration. Haisujin reassures him again that he has nothing to worry about. She then asks if he's considered increasing apple production. Chansu gives a nervous smile and says he has grown other crops too and she should try them, they taste just as good as the apples. Her eyes light up like a greedy goblin at the idea of tasting more. Chansu serves her potatoes first. The moment Haisujin bites into one, she melts in absolute bliss. The sweetness is unbelievable. She instantly imagines all the incredible products she could make from the potato. Then Chansu brings pancakes and fries. Haisujin actually sheds tears as she eats. She declares that the fries aren't even a side dish, they're good enough to be a main dish. Chansu completes the meal with roasted sweet potatoes. The instant he serves them, Doji and Ari go wild, begging to be fed too. Chansu suggests that everyone eat together. Chansu notices Ari looks skinny and there's only one explanation. Doji has been stealing Ari's food. Hamstel hops onto the table to eat with Haisujin. Chansu then asks her opinion on the potatoes since he's considering selling them. She praises the meal but asks if he can grow crops while increasing apple production at the same time. Chansu says it would be difficult, he would need a lot more points, and he doesn't think it's wise to use all his points solely for farming. Haisujin tells him his effort is appreciated but urges him to prioritize apples. She explains that all apostles are Korean and the world's culture reflects this. She says the food is delicious but it's hard to charge premium prices for crops alone. Even if crops gain popularity, they won't be as profitable as apples. Haisujin then falls to her knees, begging Chansu to make apple production his main focus. Seeing she won't back down, Chansu asks if making 100 apples a day will be enough. Her eyes sparkle at this. She thanks him sincerely for accepting her suggestion. The next day, Chansu heads out to hunt monsters like usual. Doji asks Ari if they really need to follow Chansu every time he leaves. Ari snaps at him, saying they must follow him because they're the only ones who can observe and report. Hamstel is basically useless. Unbeknownst to them, Chansu wonders why the two are constantly following him. He assumes they must be combat-type familiars. He can't imagine familiars being so useless that their only talent is eating. But that belief collapses when he sees both of them being chased by an undead monster. Chansu blames himself for expecting too much from them. Doji suddenly trips, giving the monster a chance to attack. Chansu tries to reach him, but the distance is too far. He tries screaming to distract the monster, fails. He swings his sickle too short, then suddenly the monster dies. Chansu is stunned, the sickle never touched it, then it hits him, the skill must have upgraded, the range increased. Chansu tests it by standing far away and swinging again. With a single swing he kills multiple undead monsters. A weapon notification pops up, confirming the new extended range. He also gains a new skill, mass decapitation. Chansu is shocked but excited, this ability will let him handle far more enemies. He goes berserk, mowing down hordes of monsters. Ari and Doji panic and immediately run back to the goddess, terrified. The goddess is shocked to see them return so fast. Ari tells her that Chansu just got stronger but also explains that the communication skill is still needed. The goddess tells them to calm down because she never granted such a skill. Doji then mentions the new skill, mass decapitation. The very name horrifies the goddess. A chill runs through her body, she has never heard of such a skill before. Even the goddess has no idea what kind of terrifying existence Chansu really is. They immediately assume he is some kind of grim reaper sent straight from hell. Just then, the goddess tells them she might actually understand what is happening. Doji overhears this and his imagination goes wild, thinking the goddess was the one who personally granted Chansu his new skill. Ari slaps Doji for being stupid and tells him to let the goddess finish speaking before making up nonsense. Ari asks the goddess what she thinks happened, and the goddess explains that Chansu's apostle skill evolved. She says the decapitation skill is a modified version of the harvesting skill. The evolved form of the harvest skill allowed its user to harvest across a wide range, similar to how Chansu's skill has now transformed into mass decapitation. Ari is shocked to hear this and mentions that only first-year apostles ever manage something like this. The goddess agrees, saying that's exactly why Chansu is terrifying. But she also adds that Chansu is a grateful, appreciative man, which makes everything slightly better. The goddess says that although Chansu's growth is exponential and frightening, it is because of his growth that they are safe at all. She then decides she will grant Chansu the communication skill once he returns. Moments later, Chansu shows up, and the goddess joyfully allows him to choose between two new skills since it is forbidden for a god to decide an apostle's path. When Chansu looks at his status screen, he sees two options: promise of abundance and communication. The goddess is completely certain he will choose communication. She is ready to warn him about danger and thank him for protecting them. But after thinking for a minute, Chansu chooses promise of abundance, completely shocking the goddess. Before choosing, Chansu had stared at the skills carefully. He realized the communication skill would allow him to communicate with animals and plants. The horrifying thought of hearing Ari or Doji screaming at him whenever they were annoyed made him realize he would live in hell if he picked it. And since people say ignorance is bliss, he decided that choosing communication would ruin his life. That's why he picked promise of abundance. The moment he picks it, he notices everyone around him looks gloomy. He now has two skills, but like always, there is no description explaining what they do. Chansu picks an apple, planning to offer it to the goddess as his first tribute, but to his surprise, the goddess turns away and starts sulking. He checks his status screen and learns that depending on how he uses the skill, his points will return accordingly. Chansu wonders why she's rejecting the apple. Trying to lighten the mood, he pinches Hamstel's cheek. This cheers the hamster up slightly. Then he rubs Doji's belly to tickle him, but strangely no points return. While he is thinking about what could be wrong, Hesujin rushes in and tells him he has to claim the block and defend it. Chansu is shocked and asks if someone is planning to attack. Hesujin explains that because Emperor apples have become insanely famous, they had to limit sales to one per person, yet over 5,000 reservations were already made. Chansu is stunned. Hesujin says the people don't even care when the apples arrive, they just want one eventually. Because the apples are now legendary, raiders are going to target the apples and the block. To make things worse, Chansu's block is the only exit outside the authority zone, meaning there is zero protection and it's open for criminal attacks. Hesujin wishes they had a powerful faction backing them, it would change everything. Chansu thinks hard and realizes the only backing he has is the goddess. If he loses the block, it will be the end of the goddess and the entire region. Hesujin says the first step is to claim the block and build a security gate. Chansu agrees and says capturing nearby blocks to build a hidden base will put them closer to Hesujin. She sees this as a brilliant strategy because once the block is occupied and a door is built, movement restrictions won't matter. Chansu then asks why reservations suddenly exploded, something about it feels unnatural. Hesujin tells him the entire world is going crazy because of the effects of the Emperor apple. Chansu is confused what effects. Hesujin mentions rumors claiming the apple is a universal cure. Chansu is shocked and doesn't believe the apple can do everything people say. Even Hesujin seems to believe it, but Chansu shrugs it off. In the end, it's just an apple. Meanwhile, an annoying journalist follows Rohan into a hospital, camera ready. Rohan visits his friend Yunsu, a grand alchemist. Rohan brings him a get-well gift, a box of emperor apples. Yunsu is shocked since he's heard the rumors. He takes a bite and erupts in pleasure, saying the nutrition and flavor are maxed out. He starts asking questions, but Rohan reminds him he isn't a food expert. While Yunsu is admiring the taste slowly, Rohan, who brought the apple, starts devouring them rapidly. Yunsu screams in horror, telling him to slow down, but Rohan urges him to hurry and eat. Yunsu proudly says he doesn't care, he can just call the Sun Hyun department store and order his own box. But his hope shatters when he hears the department store is overwhelmed with reservations. He even tries offering triple the price, but it still doesn't work. Meanwhile, the reporter takes pictures of them the entire time. Soon an article goes viral claiming the Emperor Apple cured Yunsu and helped him leave the hospital. Ryubu bursts into anger when he sees the article. They are already fighting dozens of rumors, and this article only adds fuel to the fire. Ryubu cannot believe everyone now thinks the apple is a literal miracle cure. Back in the world of abundance, Chansu tells the goddess that he needs to step out for a while to take over the surrounding blocks. He instructs Doji and Ari to stay behind and protect the goddess while he is gone. The goddess is stunned that Chansu wants to leave to claim new territories, assuming it must be because he just gained a new skill, one that isn't even a proper combat skill. She grabs his leg desperately, trying to stop him because it's far too dangerous. But since Chansu can't understand her, he assumes the goddess is clinging to him because she wants protein. Chansu smiles and asks if beef would be fine. He runs into the storage room and grabs the frozen beef he ordered earlier. He's excited because this is the first real meat he's gone to eat back on Earth. He only ever ate lab-grown artificial meat. Chansu starts grilling the beef and the rich aroma fills the air. He admits the smell is on a completely different level from the synthetic meat he used to eat. Doji is already drooling, but Chansu tells him the food is for the goddess. Even Ari looks disappointed since Doji just ate moments ago. Meanwhile, the goddess is absolutely furious, but Chansu mistakenly thinks she's just starving. When the meat is ready, Chansu proudly offers it to the goddess, but to his shock, she throws it on the ground. Chansu is stunned, assuming the meat must be spoiled. He takes a bite to test it, and he concludes the meat is actually tasty. But something feels missing, it doesn't have the overwhelming, explosive impact that the apples had. He assumes that's why the goddess rejected it. But in reality, the goddess is crying, trying to stop him from leaving, but he can't hear her, all because he foolishly ignored the communication skill. Meanwhile, Ari and Doji celebrate when Chansu promises to bring them delicious meat when he returns. That night, Chansu sneaks out as planned. While Ari and Doji sleep like unconscious logs, the goddess stays awake, completely worried. Chansu reaches the edge of the block. The system asks if he wants to move to the next block. He accepts and soon finds himself in a pitch-black jungle, a place totally different from where he just came from. Suddenly, a massive swarm of tiny flying monsters charges toward him. They're so small he can't even aim for their necks, so he immediately runs for his life. His only option is to retreat back to his block. But suddenly, undead monsters cross in from the other side. Chansu freezes in shock until he realizes the undead monsters are actually protecting him. Since he can't hear them, he has no idea that the undead monsters think they are the only ones allowed to kill Chansu. Because of this twisted belief, they are actually protecting him from any monster that tries. The undead monsters rush forward and slaughter the flying creatures, giving Chansu enough time to escape back into his own block. Right then, the system notifies him that he has gained bonus points from defeating evolved monsters even though he didn't kill them himself. Chansu is stunned but thrilled. He's earning points from monsters that the undead monsters defeated. He smirks darkly, he's basically found a point-generating goldmine. His income increases and so do his customers. The undead monsters he used to run from are now the ones helping him grow stronger. Meanwhile, at the department store, Hesujin complains about the overwhelming number of calls and orders they are receiving. Ryuhu admits they let the rumors spread for too long and now things are spiraling out of control. To stop the chaos, he declares that any mention of the Emperor Apple is now forbidden. No interviews, no explanations, no responses at all. We will greet all questions with silence and indifference, he declares. Hesujin says this is impossible, it will cause chaos. Ryuhu insists they won't say a single word even if they are threatened. Right then, a sword touches his neck. His joke becomes reality. A calm voice apologizes from behind. Ryuhu turns around to see Rohan, the swordsmaster, standing behind him with a blade to his throat. Ryuhu trembles in fear and asks why Rohan is here. Rohan says he already spoke to Ryuhu's boss but didn't get the answer he wanted. Now he hopes Ryuhu will be more cooperative. Rohan asks the burning question, who is responsible for growing the Emperor Apple and where is that person now? Ryuhu instantly hides behind Hesujin, begging her to explain everything to the terrifying Rohan. Hesujin is stunned that Ryuhu, who is the senior, would hide behind her instead of being the one to speak. Ryuhu frantically says he never imagined Rohan would bring an actual sword to what was supposed to be a civilized conversation. Hesujin is beyond disappointed, and she finally understands the saying, bosses are trash. Even though she's scared, Hesujin stands her ground and tells Rohan that their company never jokes around with client confidentiality. The moment Rohan hears this, he pulls out his sword, making both of them almost faint in fear. But unexpectedly, Rohan drops the sword on the floor instead of using it. He tells them he doesn't need their help anymore, he'll simply find the farmer by instinct. After saying that, he turns around to leave, leaving both Ryuwoo and Haesujin completely stunned. Haesujin has no idea what he means, so she asks Ryuwoo what Rohan meant by instinct. Ryuwoo explains that swordmasters possess instincts far sharper than normal people. He's heard stories of Rohan solving countless problems using instinct alone. Haesujin is amazed and left wondering if Rohan's claim is actually possible. 2 days later, Chansu is waiting for Rohan's arrival because Haesujin already warned him ahead of time. He wonders why Rohan hasn't shown up after 2 full days. Suddenly, Chansu gets a system notification saying someone has entered the block. He instantly knows it must be Rohan. He waits at the door, but no one comes in. He thinks it might be a glitch since all visitors should come through the gate, but another system check confirms there's no glitch. Chansu goes to investigate and gets the shock of his life. He sees Rohan cutting through the block's barrier with nothing but his sword. The sight alone sends chills through his body. Rohan walks straight up to him and asks if he is the apple cultivator. Chansu, nervous but trying to act normal, welcomes him politely. Rohan immediately gets straight to business and says he wants to buy apples. Chansu is stunned and asks how many he wants. Rohan casually says 100 apples or 200 if possible. Chansu panics and shouts that such a number is impossible. The maximum he can sell is 50 apples. Rohan doesn't argue and simply says, then 50 is fine. Chansu then asks what price he is willing to pay, and Rohan says 200,000 gold per apple. Chansu is stunned. He tells Rohan they don't have the fancy department store packaging, but Rohan doesn't care. Chansu also checks if Rohan knows that he just offered the exact department store price. Rohan calmly says he is fully aware. The offer is so insane that Chansu starts thinking about selling even more. At the apple tree, Chansu leads Rohan to the apple tree. Rohan is practically drooling at the thought of eating the apples. Chansu activates the blessing of abundance and apples instantly begin popping out across the branches. Chansu pulls out his sickle to harvest them properly, but Rohan stops him. Instead, Rohan draws his sword and in a single moment, he slices down every apple. Chansu nearly dies from shock. He refuses to believe what he just saw and convinces himself it must be a glitch. After finishing their deal, Rohan sends the payment to Chansu and says he'll visit again. But as he turns to leave, Chansu stops him. Chansu realizes Rohan might be a crucial ally for capturing the new block. He asks if Rohan would be interested in other crops, potatoes, sweet potatoes, beans, but Rohan refuses every offer without hesitation. Seeing Rohan won't budge, Chansu makes a desperate move. He promises to give Rohan extra apples beyond the agreed amount. Chansu can sense that even though Rohan looks wild and strange, he isn't a bad person. He tells Rohan that if he wants to keep up the stable apple supply, he must conquer another block, and for that he needs Rohan's help. In exchange, he'll pay with apples. Chansu wonders if his plan will work, and then Rohan steps closer and says, "I accept." Without wasting a second, Rohan immediately heads toward the new block. Chansu has to run to keep up. Chansu is shocked that Rohan is charging in instantly and starts wondering just how powerful he truly is. He notices the ground is covered with a strange wet substance completely different from his block. As he stares at his dirty shoes, a monster disguised as a plant appears behind him. Before it can eat him, Rohan grabs him and tells him to stay behind him because the area is dangerous. Chansu wants to laugh because to him, Rohan is the real definition of danger. Chansu is stunned that he almost got eaten by a plant monster. He tells Rohan he doesn't need to handle everything since Chansu will be the one managing the block later. Chansu activates decapitation and slices through monsters like they are nothing. After clearing them, he activates Blessing of Abundance. Meanwhile, Haesujin enters the block, walking around casually until she hears Chansu call her name. She looks down and sees Chansu with a bright smile. But her smile vanishes instantly when she sees Rohan working beside Chansu, tending to a plant. Haesujin rushes down to ask Chansu what is going on, and Chansu explains that since he plans to conquer the surrounding blocks, he decided to secure his foothold in this area first. But Haesujin screams that she doesn't care about his plans. What she really wants to know is why Rohan is standing there with him. Chansu then explains how everything unfolded. Apparently, when they first arrived, Rohan told Chansu that he wanted to taste apples grown on the new land. Chansu nervously replied that the land was unusable because it was covered in puddles. The moment Rohan heard that, he immediately unsheathed his sword and slashed the ground, clearing a massive area of grass and creating open space where Chansu could plant seeds. Chansu was stunned speechless and quickly planted the seed. He then cast the Blessing of Abundance, and that is exactly what they were doing when Haesujin arrived. The seed Chansu planted has already grown into a towering apple tree with bright, vibrant leaves. Haesujin is impressed, but she mentions the apple smells unusual. Chansu agrees and says it's because of the environment. The apples have double the scent and double the flavor, and their taste changes depending on how many points he injects. He admits he's still experimenting. Chansu plucks one of the apples and offers it to Haesujin, asking if she wants a taste. She refuses immediately. Haesujin then spots plant monsters scattered around the ground and calls them ostrich tails. This is Chansu's first time hearing the name. She explains that these monsters imitate ostrich habits and only become active at night, which makes them extremely difficult to capture. Haesujin inspects the monster and says the environmental conditions look perfect. She collects some of its blood in a test tube, then asks Chansu if he was the one who hunted the ostrich tails. Chansu confirms proudly that it was all his work and Rohan didn't participate at all. When Chansu asks if that's a problem, Haesujin suddenly grabs him and asks if he is willing to sell them. Apparently, ostrich tails can be sold at a very high price. Frightened by her zombie-like expression, Chansu agrees to sell them. Haesujin throws her hands in the air like she just won the lottery. She stares at Chansu like he's the most handsome man alive. She can't believe he's talented in both farming and combat and that he even has a swordmaster working beside him. To her, meeting Chansu feels like destiny, a total blessing. Haesujin starts daydreaming about future products she could sell until Chansu calls her name and interrupts her fantasy. Irritated, she asks what he wants. Chansu reminds her that he placed an order. Haesujin digs through her bag and brings out everything he ordered: plant seeds for pest control, plus a construction kit for building structures. Within moments, Chansu builds a compact home for adventurers and plants the pest-repelling seeds around the area. Haesujin is blown away. She had no idea Chansu could grow plants so quickly. She begins wondering what sort of monster man Chansu actually is. Soon after, Chansu officially purchases the new block, causing the goddess and her retainers to celebrate like joyful babies. Chansu is ecstatic too because he has finally become a landowner. Each block consists of 100 ownership units, and once they're all purchased, the entire block falls under the faction's control. Chansu feels emotional because on Earth, he could barely afford a single room. Purchasing the land also unlocks new features, the most important being the block trait assignment. The system explains that the traits available depend on the apostle's god and the natural state of the block. Chansu is thrilled this fits perfectly with the goddess's abilities. The system gives him two options, growth and death. Naturally, growth sounds much better and he believes it will benefit the goddess as well. He applies the growth trait, but nothing seems drastically different. Chansu concludes it's because the trait is still at stage 1. He checks the status window and sees that the growth trait affects almost everything. He smiles until he sees one specific line, spawned monster growth. Chansu almost collapses from fear. He realizes the trait has both advantages and disadvantages. One downside is that the undead monsters have grown stronger too. Thankfully, they are still manageable for now. He heads out to hunt monsters as usual, slicing them down easily. He's happy since stronger undead also means more points. Suddenly, Rohan appears behind him without warning, startling Chansu. He realizes Rohan must have run out of apples already. Rohan asks for more apples. Chansu reminds him it hasn't even been a week since he bought the last batch. He thinks Rohan is going to collapse from apple overdose at this rate. Chansu asks how many he needs. Rohan replies 120, but if there are more, I'll take them. Chansu explains that because of the change in environment, he must adjust the flavor and tells Rohan he can taste one apple for free. Unknown to Chansu, the goddess and her retainers are gathered under the apple tree having fun. He arrives and is shocked to find them goofing around. The group almost buries itself underground when Rohan appears. He looks terrifying to them. Suddenly, Rohan swings his sword. Chansu thinks he's aiming at the group, so he jumps forward to protect them. But in reality, Rohan is just slicing down apples. Chansu is relieved. Rohan must not have sensed the goddess's presence. He referred to them as mere familiars. Then Rohan says he can feel the presence of the growth trait in the block. Because of this, he wants to stay and train here, and he assures Chansu he will pay for it. Chansu's eyes widen. The moment he hears pay, he asks how much Rohan is offering. Rohan smiles and names a massive amount. Chansu goes into a state of pure ecstasy and immediately shakes Rohan's hand. He welcomes him as his honored VIP customer. Rohan asks Chansu if he truly thinks his request is possible, and Chansu confidently replies yes. However, he first wants assurance that the environment won't be torn apart, and Rohan calmly guarantees that nothing will break. Chansu then asks if something could suddenly explode out of nowhere, and once again Rohan reassures him there is nothing to worry about. Chansu admits that he doesn't have the ability to manufacture monsters, since he lacks the points required for that. But Rohan answers that he doesn't need Chansu to generate monsters at all. What he needs is simply a small space in the corner, nothing more. Chansu is shocked that Rohan's request is actually so minimal. Since it's easy enough, he agrees, and then tells Rohan there is one more thing he wants aside from money. Chansu finally expresses what has been in his heart. He wants Rohan to become his personal guard. With how dangerous this world constantly is, he believes having a swordsman of Rohan's caliber at his side would provide real protection. Rohan replies that he will consider the offer only if Chansu is able to strengthen the growth effect. Chansu is overjoyed to hear this and promises to increase the growth rate by 50,000 points every single day. He even offers 10 apples daily. Rohan focuses more on the apples and asks whether they can be acquired through a different method. Chansu assures him he doesn't need to worry about apples at all. Meanwhile, Doji and the others are trembling in fear because it seems like Rohan might be living with them from now on. On the other hand, Chansu believes the familiars will be thrilled since a mighty swordsman will be protecting them. But when he turns around, he sees the group reacting with pure horror. Rohan notices this too. Chansu immediately lies, saying he is new here, and tries to get the familiars comfortable with Rohan, but instead, they run away in terror. Chansu is embarrassed but tries not to dwell on it and proceeds to give Rohan his first request, exploring the other block. Later, the two of them inspect another block when Rohan senses something behind a bush. They walk over to examine it and find a cat lying there peacefully. Chansu is surprised he wasn't expecting to find another creature like Hamstall. Since the cat appears relaxed, Chansu believes it is harmless. Before Rohan can stop him, Chansu walks over and reaches out to pet the cat. The cat wakes up, sees Chansu's face up close, and leaps away like it just witnessed a demon. It hisses at him aggressively, sending chills down Chansu's spine. Suddenly, a status window pops open, revealing that the cat is actually the Apostle of Negation, and it has declared war on Chansu's block. Chansu is horrified. Did this Apostle declare war simply because he pet it? With tears in his eyes, Chansu asks Rohan if the cat is the Apostle of Negation because it just declared war on him. But Rohan dismisses it, thinking Chansu is talking nonsense. Chansu assumes the cat is angry because he touched it without permission. Trying to calm the situation, Chansu approaches the cat to resolve things peacefully, then suddenly Rohan interrupts him, saying he does not have to fight the cat. Rohan explains that the real apostles he will be fighting will appear soon at the block's border. And to Chansu's shock, they will be human. Chansu freezes at the thought. Killing monsters had always been easy, but fighting humans is a completely different matter. Rohan, as if reading his mind, tells him that it's perfectly fine to kill the negation apostles they can revive at their temple. Chansu is stunned. He asks Rohan if that means they basically have a checkpoint. Rohan says yes. Chansu feels it's extremely unfair. He and his group don't get a second life if they fail, but the negation apostles can act recklessly without consequences. Feeling pumped, Chansu asks Rohan if he will help him in the upcoming battle. Rohan answers that he will help if possible. Right on cue, a group of negation-loyal monsters and human apostles appear in the block. One apostle holds a megaphone and loudly demands that Chansu come out and show himself. At the alchemy headquarters, Hesujin is examining the ostrich tail sap she collected earlier and is impressed by how incredible Chansu's abilities are. She believes Chansu's strength must come from an artifact. Artifacts are divine items created for those who are close to a god. They can even be formed from the remnants of a dead deity and allow the user to harness the god's power. But after thinking about it, Hesujin decides Chansu likely isn't using an artifact because they are extremely difficult to use unless they perfectly match the god's nature. Just then, Unsu suddenly bursts into the room, shocking her. She becomes even more stunned when Unsu marches straight toward her holding the ostrich tail sap. Unsu screams at Hesujin, demanding to know where she got the sap. Hesujin freezes. She realizes something insane is about to happen again. Back at Chansu's block, the invading apostles shout for him to come out before they get tired of searching. Unbeknownst to them, Chansu and Rohan are quietly hiding in the bushes nearby. Chansu wonders why the guys are acting so boldly, and he asks Rohan if this reckless behavior is because they can resurrect even after dying. Rohan confirms it most likely. Their fearlessness comes from the fact that they can revive at their temple. Even though they have very little time to handle the enemies, Chansu feels relieved and secure having Rohan beside him. He knows that if the negation apostles try something insane, Rohan will deal with them instantly. Chansu finally steps out of hiding, sickle in hand. The lead apostle looks at him with disdain, like Chansu is some pathetic weakling, and orders him to hand over apples. One of the other apostles mocks him, pointing out that he is severely outnumbered. However, the longer Chansu stands there silently, the more nervous the group becomes. They didn't expect Chansu to stay this calm. After a brief tense silence, Chansu finally speaks, calling the apostle trash and saying he isn't even worthy of concern. He tells them that if they truly want apples, they should go buy them at the department store. His words completely shatter their pride. The lead apostle demands to know if Chansu can handle the consequences of such arrogance. Chansu replies bluntly that he should go ask his mother all the useless questions he keeps asking. The insult hits him like a punch to the soul, and the furious apostle orders his subordinates to kill Chansu. Meanwhile, Unsu interrogates Hesujin about where she got the ostrich tail sap. Hesujin wants to tell the truth, but she reminds him that customer information is confidential. Unsu then clarifies that he's asking because of the labor fee. He wants to know who produced such high-purity sap. The sap she brought has a purity level far superior to standard extracts, and maintaining such purity is extremely difficult. Unsu pulls out a contract and hands it to Hesujin, asking if she would like to sign a formal partnership. Hesujin says she'll need to ask the cultivator first, so Unsu suggests they create a provisional contract. He becomes excited, telling Hesujin to inform the cultivator that the alchemy department will always welcome them. The lead apostle starts to notice something strange. Chansu is way too calm for someone who is surrounded. He wonders where the confidence is coming from. On the other hand, Chansu is busy wondering how he's going to take care of the skeleton soldiers approaching him. As the skeletons charge forward, Chansu activates mass decapitation, instantly annihilating the entire group in a single sweeping strike. The apostle watches in horror as his subordinates go flying like weightless feathers. Chansu piles on the humiliation by mentioning how extremely weak the apostle's men are. Standing above the pile of bones, Chansu asks if the apostle is ready to surrender, but the apostle refuses to lose to a D-rank farmer. He pulls out a mysterious orb and summons a giant monster called Heracles. The creature looks monstrous with a lion's head attached to its left shoulder. Instead of running, Chansu still finds room to trash-talk the apostle, saying he is horrible at naming monsters. The apostle roars in laughter, telling Chansu he will soon regret his words because Heracles is a weapon worth a huge amount of money. He commands Heracles to attack. Heracles launches a massive punch, but Chansu dodges it effortlessly. Before the monster can attack again, Chansu swings his sickle and kills Heracles in a single hit. Heracles collapses to the ground, shocking the apostle, who had been bragging about its power just seconds earlier. The apostle screams in pain and disbelief, saying Heracles was a creature he had spent 10 years creating, only for Chansu to slice it down like trash. He then yells at his subordinate Soya, demanding why she hasn't joined the battle. Soya fires back, reminding him that he was the one who confidently charged ahead, so she sees no reason to fight after he got beaten by a farmer. Still, she admits she's willing to fight, but only if she's paid extra, since her original task was just navigation. Chansu is smiling, actually excited, until Soya turns her gaze directly at him. Her eyes glow dark red and the atmosphere changes instantly. A system tip pops up, warning Chansu that Soya is using a skill called Negation of Life, a curse-based ability that places a dangerous debuff on the target. Before he can react, Chansu falls under the curse. The annoying apostle bursts into laughter the moment he realizes Chansu has fallen victim to Soya's trap. He mockingly tells Chansu that he is about to experience what happens to anyone who challenges negation. Soy immediately scolds him, yelling that he shouldn't forget the true mission they came for. The guy quickly gets serious and rushes off to locate the apple tree, but he swears he will take revenge later for his destroyed creation. As he sprints through the forest, the apple scent becomes stronger and he knows he is getting close. Suddenly, he senses faint movement behind him. He whips around only to find no one there. Confused and tense, he checks the area again, then Rohan appears above him, descending like a phantom. The apostle instantly recognizes him. After all, Rohan is a famous swordmaster, but recognition doesn't save him. Rohan cuts him down without hesitation. Meanwhile, Chansu opens his eyes and finds himself back on Earth. The last thing he remembered was fighting the apostles, yet now everything looks unfamiliar and strangely peaceful. Then he hears someone call his name from behind. He turns and sees his parents alive and standing right in front of him. Overwhelmed with happiness, Chansu runs toward them, tears streaming down his face as he jumps into their arms. He sobs, asking where they have been all this time, begging them never to leave him again. But then his greatest nightmare begins replaying in front of him. His parents slowly push him away, turn their backs, and walk away. Chansu screams and cries desperately, begging them not to leave him again. Suddenly, the illusion shatters. Rohan pulls him out of it, telling Chansu that everything he saw was fake. He explains that Chansu was trapped inside Soy's hallucination skill. Rohan had struck Soy on the arm while trying to rescue him. Soy collapses to her knees, shocked that Rohan is present in a place like this. Chansu, filled with rage and hurt, charges at Soy with his sickle, ready to punish her for making him cry. But before he can reach her, Rohan slices her down first. Soy falls into the swamp water below. Rohan apologizes for interfering, but Chansu assures him he isn't upset. In fact, he is grateful. Chansu suggests they return to base and clean up the aftermath later. Rohan then asks Chansu about his future plans. Chansu boldly declares that his goal is to become the strongest force in the world. But as his first step, he will capture all surrounding blocks. He asks if Rohan will continue assisting him. Rohan agrees so long as he is paid with apples. Chansu promises to supply as many apples as Rohan wants. On their way back, the black cat shows up. Chansu nervously asks Rohan what the deal is with this cat. Rohan casually replies that it is one of the 7 calamities, a territorial predator. Chansu is horrified. He thought the cat was just a cute little creature. He realizes he almost died earlier without even knowing it. Meanwhile, the captured negation apostle wakes up inside a prison cell. A system notification informs him that a penalty surcharge has been applied due to the immense power difference between his faction and Chansu's low-level faction. He must pay 1 million gold coins as punishment. He freaks out, complaining that the punishment is unfair. He argues that Chansu had a swordmaster helping him, making the battle unequal. Because he refuses to pay, the system interprets this as inability to pay, and begins transferring him to negation punishment mode. Panicking, he yells that he's ready to pay after all, but it's too late. Undead monsters drag him out of the cell. His nightmare worsens when a terrifying negation apostle named Manhwa appears. She commands him to explain everything truthfully unless he wants a fate worse than death. Terrified, he blurts out that he found the cultivation site for the Emperor Apple. Manhwa doesn't believe him and accuses him of lying. He insists it's true and even mentions that Rohan was there, which catches Manhwa's interest. She knows the reparations would not have been so heavy if Rohan hadn't participated. He continues explaining that Soy was defeated too, which shocks Manhwa even more. Manhwa slowly stands up, walks toward him, and he nearly collapses from fear. She says Soy cannot be held responsible, which means he must bear the consequences. With a sinister smile, Danha offers him a proposition. She grabs his head and forcefully binds him under a contract, turning him into a prisoner who must fulfill her demands. Danha orders him to return to Chansu's cultivation site and infiltrate it. The apostle stammers that it's impossible. Danha threatens to turn him into an undead if he refuses. She tells him that the only way he will escape this situation is by successfully sneaking into the apple farm.